All right, now we're going in and doing our final details here. First thing I see that I need to soften these masking fluid lines, particularly around the top of his head. So I'm going to take a little of that soft yellow that I used before and just come down here and over here into here and just into this area again. I'm going to clean up that edge in a second. Under here and his nostril there, and just a little lightness on his beak right there. Then I'm going to go in with a slightly bluer mixture, very wet, in here. Try to define the shadow again along his head. Then we go back in with the water and soften all of that. That's better. That reads a little better. Okay. Now we need to soften all of this. Actually, I have a little scrubber brush. When you're softening, where is it? When you're softening these harsh lines, when you're softening these harsh lines, it's easier just to go in and work these edges so that you have more loose. And you have to have, this is a little brush, just Master's Touch, tiny little brush that I use to, yeah, I'm really not seeing this line here. I don't know why I put that in there. So we're going to go back over all of that. Just softening that. Then we want to soften the wing a little bit and these areas in here. So you just kind of are manipulating the edge of the, a lot of people don't like masking fluid because it is quite severe sometimes. So you really have to soften these edges like that to get it looking. I'm going to put darks in here where these lines are here. Softening. We want that definite edge right there though. So we'll go over all this again with a very pale wash in a second. The feather detail is important for him. So we want to leave some of these. The easiest way to soften, so we're going to go in and detail some of this here in a second. So let's go in and just add some more detail in here. This needs to be softened here. I can do that just with a soft brush. I like the edges there. Just going to add a little more color there. Soften that. And a little more color up in here, I think. And this whole area. I do want a distinct, oh, that's the wrong color. Okay, if you make a mistake like that, just wash it out. Going in, trying to define that neckline on him. just soften that. It's just almost a shadowed neckline, like that. It comes down like this, into there. That's all really one shadow. This comes up a little bit, like that. But then the whole part of his beak area is also darker here. So let's do that. Get this area some more. We're just blending all this together, softening all of this because it was too severe. If you want some texture, just use your dry brush like that. All right, I think that's good. Okay, so I said we were doing this softly, and of course we're not. So let me get some of these mixtures off my palette that are not what I want. Okay, so let's just go in and soften the whole thing with a nice wash over the entire thing. And that'll knock back a lot, except for the very lightest lights. That'll knock back a lot of this harshness. So this is just called a unifying wash. We're just going over pretty much everything. Do want that to be correct right there though. And again, just softening everywhere around there. Okay, so if I take that, basically that pale unifying wash and just go over everything lightly, it just softens everything, softens these marks. And just makes it a little bit more believable. Just adding some darks here and there. Pushing this feather even darker under here. This, putting some dark under here. Going back to my unifying wash, coming up here and softening this edge because that was too severe. And there's some darks in here, so I'm just doing some dry brush in here. All right, so we've probably gotten him to the point where we should need to be very careful here and not overdo this. So let me get in my yellow in his eye. Which basically goes around here. That's just with a very fine detail brush. And actually it's a bit softer than that, so I'm just going to blot that out. So I'm just going to blot that out a little bit because his eye is a little bit more of a lemon yellow there. That's better. So that's all you have to do to lighten that. Then when that dries, we'll go back in with the red. We've got that slight lighter color under here on his leg. It's a little bit of a brown yellow color. Just some definition there. Kind of comes up in here as well. Okay. He has a toenail down here. I wanted to make these darker, so just go in with the Payne's Gray here. Make these lines harder. And make a nice defined edge under his foot. There's a big crevice thing here, so we'll get that. Go under his foot a little bit here. And just soften that on out here. Give that some texture. Very wet. There's a lot of blue in this as well, so coming into my blue mixture over here, I see some blue in here. Definitely got a lighter edge here. Okay, that's all we're going to do to that, except soften this edge with just some clear water here, so it's not so harsh. And then with clear water, I am going to soften this down here. And I'm going to take that red, or orange rather, and go around his eye one more time. And his pupil needs to be in the center, which it's not. So we'll do that. There. And we'll blot that back. Just soften that a little bit. Now I would work him a lot more if I were painting him, but for a gallery display or something. But since I'm not, I'm going to push the darker feather here. Since these are for my intermediate students, this whole exercise, so I don't want to get too detailed in here. Get underneath those feathers there. Just going around softening these edges here. Pushing that just darker. Remember, watercolor dries 25 to 30% darker. So you really have to be patient with these darks. If you come in too quickly with them, we've got some random darks in here that look about like that. Got this up under here. Looks like that. This. And up under there. Okay, I'm liking that better. We lost our pretty blue that was up here. There are some darks up in here, so we'll put some of those up in there. There's some dark in here. Down there, but we'll soften that. So any mark you put down that's too hard, just blot it and you'll soften it right back. I think I'm going to take some of my bluer mixture, maybe some ultramarine, some phthalo blue, and some of that Payne's gray. And just with a lot of water, just go in and add some details in some of these feathers. Ooh, I like that. Just define some of the feathers here. Just softening that all back. This really pretty feather there. Maybe just giving some more to those pretty feathers there. And just lightening that with water. Blotting that, don't want that so severe. So you can keep working up in these areas as much as you want to, just adding variation, suggesting feathers. We lost the whites up in here, so we had some whites up in there. And just going in some of these areas and making them darker. So there's not such a contrast there. Like that. Just giving it a little more color, a feather here and there, just to simulate a feather. Even though that's not, you know, this is where artistic license kicks in. You can really do a lot of things to make this more interesting. This is a real feather here. Then I would make that darker down there. Blot it back. So just changing warm and cools in here. And I think we better stop because I could continue to do this for a very long time. So there you have it. There's our seagull. I'm going to, there should be this definite line here. So I'm just going to make sure that this reads as part of this feather too. So just add a little detail in there. Make that make better sense. Okay, we're stopping. We're calling him finished.